Give me a sec.
No problem.
Hello, hello, and we're live, I think. If anyone can hear me, please type something in chat. Check 1, 2. And if you're watching the VOD of this, feel free to skip this entire intro. We're just warming up.
I'm gonna assume they can hear us, right?
We'll find out soon enough.
Can
There,
hear.
awesome. Hello. Hello, I'm seeing a lot of
Great
familiar
news,
faces.
everyone.
Wow. Let's see. Welcome back, Thumper, Nujuju, Sailing Master, all familiar names to this channel. This is gonna be interesting because we have 2 guests today, and we're gonna properly introduce you to soon. But by all means. Thank you for confirming you can hear me. There's one time I started a stream, and I was talking to myself for about 1.5 minutes before I realized that I was muted on my preamp, and it was miserable because I had to do my entire intro twice. So that VOD in particular has like 1.5 minutes of nothing, straight up nothing. So, you know, I'm glad this one's going better. Sailing Master, there's 3 people here. Ain't that crazy? I have to boost the volume, but it's audible could be louder. I'm checking my levels. It looks like if I'm any louder, then I'll start peaking. So apologies. I think that's the loudest we can make it. We got 2.5 minutes.
I'm gonna go get a drink real quick then.
Of course.
Fill up my water.
No problem.
Oh no, it begins. My cat is screaming.
Your cat is screaming. Go. Put them
He
on the
hears me
mic.
talking, he thinks
Put them on the
it's to
mic.
him.
The more the merrier.
Beaker, you wanna come talk to some people? Hi, yeah, come here. Come here where they might be able to hear you. You wanna say that again? He was like, no, now I don't, of course.
Okay. Well, if your camera's shut.
Yeah, he
it's
hears me
fine.
talking and he thinks it's to him, so
Oh, got it. That makes a lot of sense.
he's like, yes, hello.
Oh, is your
Attention.
cat talking?
Yeah, he started crying. But now, of course, he doesn't want to say anything. As a cat do.
That beaker.
Yeah, of course. Peach just had her food, so she's not going to say anything, but...
Sailing Master says cats are
Baby
not pets. Cats have pets. Valid.
I am his pet, of course. I'm in his personal, you know, chef, Mrs. Everything. Yeah.
All right, we got a minute till
He's
we
the one
start.
that's always sitting on my tablet when I'm drawing and such.
Oh, that's fantastic. Love the visual.
He's a good cat.
He's a strange cat.
He is
But
a
I mean, I
strange
guess
cat.
that's just cats.
Peach is good too.
Yeah.
I'm the cat babysitter when Sam has to go out of town.
Yeah. Deal with the strange.
Thumper
strange
asks, do cats cry?
Yeah.
Well, I cry
I mean,
as in
that's-
like whale, but cries in like
Yeah.
tear.
Yeah, it's not a normal meow. It's like he's wailing for attention. And he often will, if I don't pay attention to it, he will go like into the bathroom, into the tub, and do it there. So it really seems like he's crying because no one's paying attention to him.
And on that note,
right.
welcome everyone to the stream. welcome to another episode or live stream of the 99 More series, where I go on a quest to play or learn about 99 more TTRPGs. Special guest, because it's not just one guest, it's 2 guests. We have the two of the collaborators on the TTRPG called Blasting Off Again. Who would like to introduce themselves first? Please give us your name and what you do. All right, wait. Give me a second. Hold up. We gotta start this. I'm not sure if they're picking up your audio. Give me 1 second. One second. Okay, wait. If you guys can hear them, then let me know. Just give me a sec. I'm gonna see if I can do this. Doing some
They're way
Mobius
quiet
magic.
all of a sudden.
Let's
Everyone
see.
talk at once.
Please don't everybody talk at once. Oh my gosh, how do I do this? Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. Input capture. Is this the one? This the one? Music controls. Sorry, I'm gonna be bouncing between two different things here. Just give me one moment. No. All right, can you say something now?
Hello.
Yeah.
There,
This is something
perfect.
that is
Cool.
being said.
Okay, that should. Yeah. I was. What do you call it? Thank you, Fernando. That's exactly what I was noticing. That like they could hear you on the opening screen, but not the main screen. That's just something I have to fix. So, if you guys are noticing any more audio strangeness, please let me know so we can sort that out. 1 minute in and not 1 hour in, as has happened before. Okay. So let's try this. Let's try this again. Who introduced themselves first, so they could do that one more time, because I heard you, but everybody else might not have.
That
Alright.
was Sam.
That was me. My name is Sam Hannis. I'm the creative director on this project. And I'm just generally the artist for a lot of things we do. So I did the cover and the graphic design for this, and then someone else did the Genmon, the little cute monsters. So unfortunately I can't take credit for those.
Okay, wonderful. Cool. And our other guest, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kyle Rawlings. I am the lead writer and sort of the admin for our company. So anything that we put out, I'm generally the one who writes it. I have people who help me play test and stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm the guy who makes the final call.
Fantastic. And I'm going to pull up your itch page, if I've got this correct. Give me just a second to make sure I do. We're going to just take a quick peek at your other projects or things you have released before. Please, Google, help me. Oh, here it is. Cool. Does that work? There it is. 5 Points Games. Now, look, can you explain to me, are you both, do you both together make 5 Points Games, or is one of you a collaborator with 5 Points Games, or does someone usually run it? What's the dynamic here?
We're co-owners
Awesome.
of the company.
So, what kind of things have you worked on in the past, just so people are familiar with your work? In case they've noticed it browsing through itch before, because I've definitely seen a couple of titles I've noticed on my deep dives through the itch pages.
So yeah, we've worked on a couple Guided by Firelight games, which you can see on there. Sagittarius, Turned A, and I Choose You. I know you covered fairy stuff in the past. We've done a lot of other stuff for game jams. Banda's Grove, if people are familiar with Pantheon Games, we did a game for their game jam. And we have a ton of masks content, which is slowly scrolling onto screen, as I can see.
Yes.
We did a Kickstarter a year and a half ago now for the Worst Generation, which was our big project. 400 pages of additional masks content, 10 playbooks, just a ton of content.
Wait, you guys are
and all
behind the
playbooks.
Worst Generation? Oh, wait, I've seen this one. Wait a second. Hold on. I've definitely looked at this before. Oh my god, this is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in this one.
Yep. We also did Midnight Generation, which is a Persona hack for masks.
Oh, that's
as
incredible.
well.
Wait, Persona? Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, that's the Midnight
Yeah.
Generation.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, for people not familiar with the game Masks, it's a pretty great game by Magpie Games that uses the Powered by the Apocalypse system, and it has a number of playbooks that lend itself very well. A number of you can see that 5 Points Games has made a number of custom playbooks specifically for it, and the general theme is like a high school superhero sort of story, right?
Yeah. For masks in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically young superheroes and dealing with like the combined drama of being a teenager and being a superhero.
Yeah, the
So lots of
trials and
fun drama.
tribulations of the teenage years. Absolutely. Yeah. So today we're going to focus on your most recent creation, I believe, which is this game called Blasting Off Again. And for many of you, you know exactly where this phrase comes from, but there's an entire game revolving around it. So can I ask one of you, what is this game about? What kind of game is it? What kind of game lends itself to being called Blasting Off Again?
So we are working on a game called A Monster's Tale, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game for Pokemon, basically. It started off as a kind of its own little mask hacks, but it's sort of evolved into its own thing. And one of our playtesters kind of jokingly said, well, we need a team villain playbook for the game, and that just didn't really fit the theme, so we kind of talked back and forth and discussed like having a side game where you got to play Team Rocket, basically. But I think you could use this game to play like minions of an evil necromancer's minions, you know, building a lair and fighting heroes, and you know the whole game is intended to be silly. You know, playing the villains can be a little heavy on the table if you're doing it realistically. So I just thought that the lighter tone that Team Rocket brings to the villains of you lose. That's the point of the game. Everyone comes in with the conclusion that you're not the heroes and you're not going to win, and it's sort of seeing how you fail upwards to the end result of that failure at the end of the day.
That's so interesting, because I know that there are some games that revolve around like being the villain or having your own story arc or finding victory in like the fallings of other people, but there is kind of a unique niche that this fills, that these are specifically, if I'm understanding this correctly, villains that I don't want to say doomed to fail, but like in a very lighthearted, playful way, make ridiculous plans that will not pan out. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think the second you look at the cover of this, which is incredible, by the way, I can't help but comment on this every time I see it. But the cover of this game is incredible. It's just amazing. So I really like whoever helped out with like the layout of this whole PDF. I'm assuming Sam, you were behind the cover and the artwork that's upon it.
Yes, I did the cover and the layout of the PDF. It was very fun to work on.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like this whole PDF is so crisp. And I'm so, may I say, like I've been browsing a lot of itch lately, and there's certainly PDFs that I run into where I'm like, someone who was working on this had a vision and they pulled it off, right? And there's like, it's the coloring, the layout, like everything is so neatly. I'm just scrolling through just so you guys can see, like, just the general layout of this is so clean. And if you look, and once you hit this page, it's like, oh, okay, now I know, like, there's an energy to this game that we're trying to reach, and I really enjoyed reading it. So for the people who are watching for the first time, I have not read this whole PDF through. I kind of skimmed it just to get the general idea or the general energy of this. So you'll be joining us in learning this game for the first time and processing it. I'm always so curious where kind of game designers pull their inspirations from, how much of the game is like truly like novel and unique, and how much kind of builds off of the foundations of other fantastic games. So I'm very curious where this lands. Anything else you guys want to plug before we jump into this? Any other projects you'll be working on soon, or where they can find you before we hop into the PDF?
Sure. We're working on a game called Rex Arcana. I think we kind of talked a little bit with Tree about that before we got started. You play as rootin' tootin' shootin' T-Rexes in the Wild West. So
Wait,
another kind of silly game.
Hold on. I don't think you said that they have guns.
Oh yeah, they're T-Rex cowboys.
Okay, when you say Rex Arcana, I imagine like wizard T-Rexes, but these are like Wild West, like gun-toting.
Yeah, but the 6-shooters do magic spells. That's
Amazing.
the Arcana part. They're like magic cowboys.
That's incredible. Okay, I didn't catch that the first time around.
And while I was writing, I listened to I don't know if I actually told this to Sam, but I know Sam will appreciate this. I listened to Knights of Sidonia by Muse for like an hour and a half while I was writing it.
Amazing.
So I think that's the next thing that we're coming out with, and then it will be A Monster's Tale. We'll be bringing that to Kickstarter at some point, hopefully this year. I think that's the plan. We don't really have a concrete deadline for that, but soon, TM.
Since our artists all work full-time jobs outside of this, it kind of gets a bit hard to plot down hard dates sometimes.
Of course. Yeah, I'm very much for that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that all of us are coming off of our day jobs to do this, so it's not.
Talk about fun stuff instead.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, you can follow us on 5 Points Games at Twitch or on Itch, and on Twitter. We also do have a Twitch stream that we just started for Sam to do live art, and I popped on Friday talking about some live game design stuff, and I've got a little side project. I don't know if you know the game Exalted by White Wolf, but I've been setting my mind to converting that to Powered by the Apocalypse or Forts in the Dark, whichever one I think works better. That's kind of my hobby, so that I don't make another game that Sam has to do more art for.
Okay, that's awesome. So everybody stay tuned for that. I will very intently keep my eyes out for Rex Arcana, because that is so interesting.
It should be pretty goofy.
I'm looking forward to it. On screen is the Twitter at 5 Points Games, where you can find more regular updates from this team of creators. Let's get into blasting off again and learn what this game is all about. I'm going to read through a couple of the pages, and if you guys have any comments, always just chime in and interrupt me. Please do. I will not knock you for it at all.
All right.
Cool. This is just a table of contents for chapter 1. This is kind of introducing you to the game. You have how to set up your character, and the gacha system, as I understand, is kind of the when I read this, I thought it was really interesting how they kind of assign you the what is even the word here, the creature pet that will be helping you on your journeys, so to speak. There's like a whole system that is put into place under the organization that you have joined. And then here, chapter 2 is about running the game. It's about understanding schemes and targets and understanding how the flow of the session and the possible campaign goes, and kind of mechanics in how the story flows. And in part 3, you see the different kinds of people you can be. Am I understanding this correctly so far?
Yeah, that's generally the layout that we follow.
Okay, cool. Thumper in chat asks, is this more about world building or toolkits for making stories? Do you have any feedback to that question?
I think both. We really didn't do a lot of world building on our own. Just people can use this to make their own stories. It's mostly just how to run the the conversation of the game, and the world building is kind of left up on the players.
Yeah, that's totally valid. I know there's a couple of like setting foundations in the first couple pages, but like after that it's entirely like open-ended. I know some games like Masks has like pages and pages of lore of like setting of Halcyon City and like how and like the histories of that. This is not necessarily that sort of setup, right?
Right. I mean, we really did play with just regular Pokemon. Obviously, we can't sell that because we don't want to get a cease and desist or anything
of course.
slapped on us. But I mean, it worked just fine playing actual Team Rocket with actual Pokemon. One of our playtesters is from Jersey, so we had her play a Meowth with a Jersey accent, and it was really funny.
Oh, fantastic!
The playtests for this game were all a scream. So everyone, just even people who had never watched Pokemon before, really kind of clicked with the game. And got in with it. But yeah, I mean, we put a little bit of flavor text in the beginning. One of the big things that we've been trying to do is make our stuff read less like a technical manual and more like a actual game. So we put a little bit of flavor in there.
Yeah, that's perfect. Let me just read through this first page of explanation, and then maybe it'll be clearer to the people watching what this game is all about. So chapter 1 is called Prepare for Trouble. The Kotatsu region is in danger, and only you, noble souls, are fit and brave enough to save it. What region lets children wander the highways and byways in the dark of night, armed with Genmon without supervision? What sort of region protects the youth from real challenge and adversity, creating gyms and journeys even the weak and unscrupulous can pass with ease? The elite wish to weaken our region and rule through force, to keep all under a warm blanket of cozy ignorance. But we of Team Chill say resist. Genmon are dangerous. Genmon? How do you pronounce that?
I'd say Genmon, yeah.
Genmon are dangerous. We've all seen what Genmon can do. These elite creatures live alongside us in the wilds and even in our cities, breathing fire, turning poison to clean water, freezing food with just their presence. Genmon are dangerous. Only the strong should have Genmon to keep the weak safe. Join us, and together we can place Genmon in the hands of those who can be trusted with them. No longer will adolescents keep us at their youthful mercy. The voice of the oppressed. They wouldn't arrest us if they didn't fear us. Noble souls, know that our struggle can only continue with your aid. Sign up today at your local Team Chill recruitment station and join your voices and talents with ours. Save the Kotatsu region from itself. Be a hero. Fill out the application inside and read more about how you can join the fight. Okay, so this kind of reads like teen show propaganda, but I will say they kind of got a couple good points. They're not entirely wrong. I have always wondered why the world allows 10-year-olds to travel around with wild animals and battle them in the middle of the streets. It does seem just a little bit dangerous.
The best kind of propaganda has a sliver of truth.
That's fair. Totally fair. And this is basically saying, hey, kids, 1, shouldn't be out alone with wild animals, and 2, shouldn't be coddled as they're becoming these quote-unquote Pokemon masters or Genmon masters. There should be some sort of what do you call it? Adjudicating force that protects the children from the dangerous animals of the wild. And that's Team Chill, as I understand it.
That's certainly what they say on paper, yeah.
That's what they're trying to convince you, I suppose. So let's look into this. I'm just going to read this opening part right here. Joining Team Chill is more than just a smart decision. It's a lucrative job where you'll earn financial stability and learn practical skills you can apply to real-world problems. Team Chill provides on-site learning to all grunts, paid training, and Genmon of your very own. Don't worry about bringing childhood friends into the thick of combat. Our Team Chill certified gotcha system will provide you, that's a wonderful pun, will provide you with all the combat-ready Genmon you'll ever need. This is the terms and conditions apply? Yeah. Okay, cool. If you ever need help filling out your Team Chill application, a friendly Team Chill executive will be at any of our numerous training centers and recruitment halls to assist you. All relevant application information can be found in the back of this recruitment pamphlet. My first impression is that Team Chill is awfully public. They have Team Chill executives, training centers, recruitment stations. These guys are not hiding, I think is the word. They're very blatant in what they want to do. And this line, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. Don't worry about bringing childhood friends into the thick of combat. That resonates with me. That's true. I wouldn't. If I wouldn't bring one of the things, the Genmon I grew up with into dangerous situations. They're like a house cat. Would you bring your house cat out on the field with you, protecting people? No, they're not supposed to. I think that's perfectly reasonable. It makes a lot of sense. This is all very convincing. I'm I'm being led to understand where they're coming from. I believe the rest of this is simply saying that, hey, while doing this, earn money, fame, reputation, avoid demerits. There's like a system where the boss who is in charge of you, and I'm assuming this is the game master of sorts. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And they'll give you like commendations. They'll give you rewards for successful missions? Question mark. And if you, I don't know what success looks like in this game yet. So, mess up and we'll have to issue you demerits. There's also a punishment system if you're very bad. Wonderful, cool. And yeah, this is just a lot of like, oh, this is actually really interesting to me, and I haven't figured out what this means yet, but I did notice it. Complicate the mission, however, and you know it's coming your way. I don't know what complications are, and this is a word that I've been running into a couple times when skimming. I'm looking forward to learning what complications are. And there's black mocks of your personal file. We should probably get a look at the character sheet and see what that looks like. Awfully ominous line here. Stay with Team Chill and we'll deprogram you. That's heartwarming. It's certainly a kind thing to say. Jason in chat says, you got an executive for help. Why not someone lower? The game master reduced to middle management. Honestly, sometimes the game master isn't an all-powerful voice in the sky. Sometimes the game master is someone who just gets the job done, you know? And if getting the job done means using bureaucracy to get someone else to get the job done, sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes that's just life.
Yep.
Let me see.
They don't get people lower because they care.
They want you to be
a leader leads, but a manager manages, but a leader leads.
Yeah. I've heard that line before.
Yeah, me too.
So what I'm reading from the plan section is that before you go out on your missions, you should probably plan what your plan is going to look like. The boss has an idea, and then so scheming. I like the capitalization. It helps me figure out what's important here. The boss scheming a plan, giving you a target, and this is like an example of what you could do to lure unexpected trainers. Just open a gym. Great, cool. And then once you get your plan done or assigned your plan, you execute. Okay, so I'm getting the picture here. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is just how my impression so far. This is a game that centers around Team Chill. Team Chill is a strangely bureaucratic. What is the word here? They're not criminals.
Organization.
Organization, that's the word. Organization. It's an organization that works to protect the streets and the children of the community. And by signing up for this, they will provide you with Genmon that you can use for your missions. You'll be given schemes to carry out from the boss, and you'll be given a target to look for, and if you do well, you'll be given commendations, and if you do badly, you'll be issued demerits, but that's not important. The most important thing is you helping the world, and Team Chill is dedicated to doing so. Am I following correctly? Did I miss anything?
No, that's exactly how the game runs. I'm a big believer in key terms and keywords. So I always try to capitalize important stuff in everything that we write.
Yeah, totally valid. Let's see. So
it's actually nice to see in real time someone working through our stuff and going, oh, this you pointed that out, made me really happy, because most people don't mention that.
Oh yeah. Believe I've come from a lot of games where you don't know if a word is really important until like way later on, and I'm like, oh, did that word mean that thing? The personal gripe, if you've ever read D&D 5th edition, if you read a sentence, and they really try hard to keep sentences looking natural, which is perfectly fine, but every word has like layers of meaning that you pull from the most obscure corners of the rule book, and if you don't know those obscure meanings, then it's very hard to understand. And sometimes you just need a word to be capitalized or bolded or italicized, just to be like, hey, I know you're new to this game, please pay attention to this word. It has there's a section on this that you can read about, and so I really appreciate it, and I'm picking up on things.
I appreciate that. And I have read through 5th ed. I haven't played much of 5th ed. I stopped playing in 3.5. But I'm on a lot of Discords for game designers, and obviously talk to, my day is mostly filled with talking with other game designers. And it was really apparent to me, especially when I first really started to do this for money, because I've been homebrewing pretty much since I was like 9 or 10.
Oh wow.
Back in AD&D days. I see a difference between game designers as artists and then game designers who I like to say I'm an engineer.
Totally valid. Yeah.
I like to make systems, and I like working those systems, because I think if you have a clean system at its base, you can deviate, which is how we did so much with masks. I think so I think no ambiguity. If something's important, just say it's important from the get-go and make it look organic in the text, which hopefully we've done with blasting off again, and players will be able to pick up on that. And I think that's just good design. Right.
I have basically at the top of this year, I don't know if I ever explained this to you. Basically at the top of this year, I decided to learn as many different tabletop RPGs as I can. Starting this series where I just read whatever piques my fancy. And one of the most important things to me when reading a PDF for the first time is that I know the difference between flavor text and mechanical verbiage. Where it's like, if I have 6 paragraphs from you, I want to be able to look at those paragraphs and at a glance already know what I need to run this game effectively. And like maybe I can save the flavor for later and kind of digest that in my own time. But if I want to kind of understand the mechanics, they can't be blurred into the paragraphs of lore that I believe to be important, but not crucial in the moment, so to speak. And I maybe that's just a preference thing. So like when things are like made overtly clear to the reader, I really appreciate that, and that convinces me to read further into it, because I know that there's some semblance of clarity moving forward into what the game is going to be about, which is why like the layout of this book, the layout of this PDF really impressed me, because everything is just so like crystal clear.
Yay! Thank
you. Yeah, it was a discussion going back and forth with his name is Tom, or Thomas is how he usually goes by when I call him Tom, about what's the correct percentage of lore versus mechanics and where does it go. So that's been an ongoing discussion on how that goes. So I do think a lot of it does come down to personal taste. I did some editing work for a lady not too long ago. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but that was like one of the biggest things that we discussed in the last email correspondence we sent back, because I was like, I don't know what these terms are. They're not clear. So I think now that the indie scene is getting more attention and bigger, I think you're going to see more of a discussion on that, because companies like White Wolf, or well, not White Wolf anymore, but Onyx Path, I guess is what they're called now, or of course Wizards of the Coast, they've had 20-30 years to sort of perfect it. Someone in your chat said, is this the headcanon that the Pokemon League pays people? No, you guys you're straight up Team Grunts. There's no payoff here. You guys, you're the bad guys in this game.
You are objectively the people in the wrong, and your goal is to make your failings as wondrous as possible. Is what I'm understanding.
That's right. The whole point is to see how much of a beautiful disaster you can make it. Can I give an example from our playtests real fast? Of course. So the second playtest that we ran, the team decided they wanted to create a propaganda film and show it off at a premiere, and their target was some former movie star, a fading light who was trying to revive her career, kind of like a Marilyn Monroe, or that kind of from the Gilded Age of Hollywood. And eventually it went off so far off the rails that one of the characters had upset like one of the child actors, and that was what eventually did them in, because and they didn't discuss this. There was no communication between them. The person playing James would give an idea. He'd say, "Oh, well, how about you set up as ticket salesman, and we'll just fleece people out of money." And the entire rest of the team, again, they didn't talk about this, ignored him. And then the person playing the Jesse character just repeated what he said word for word, and everyone on the team was like, "That's a brilliant idea. That's why you're our leader."
Classic. Wonderful.
And it was the most satisfying bit throughout the entire game to see it operate. Again, no communication. They just all picked up that was what they were going to do, and it worked out brilliantly. So that's the sort of humor that this game really I guess enshrines.
Yeah.
It rewards you for playing to the tropes that the game is based off of.
I'm very much getting a Saturday morning cartoons energy from this. And
yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. You could totally use this as any sort of Saturday morning cartoon kind of game. Like I said, you're the bumbling minions of a necromancer, and you're failing to stop the heroes from blocking them or anything like that. You're the, I don't know how this dates me, but you're the Robotnik's robots in the Saturday morning cartoon from Sonic, and you're just getting dunked on the entire time.
Yeah, that's not too far a callback, man. That's not too far. I remember that. I'm not old, right?
Someone give me Tylenol for my back pain.
Oh no, that's not. Let's keep going. This is the Grunt work application, which I'm assuming is the character sheet. Obviously, you put your name here, and I'm assuming we're going to learn about this soon. The type of your Genmon partner. I am the blank of the team. Is this playbook line where you would add your playbook, so to speak?
That's your Grunt work, yeah. Got
it. I don't yet know what the difference between knack and talent is yet. I'm sure we'll find out about that soon enough. Is a kind of the build up of the accruement of your victories over the course of whatever campaign you're doing this in. And demerits is kind of a penalty for doing it badly. Am I on the right track here? Maybe? Yes, no?
You roboted out a little bit on my end, but
okay.
Just going by what I'm seeing on screen, I think you're correct, yeah?
Basically that the commendations and demerits are the accruement of positive or negative reinforcement on the missions that you've done so far.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Jason says, I'm too old for... I don't think you can be too old for Pokemon. But that's just me.
I remember buying the first game. Yeah. I've been playing since Red, so it's a special place in my heart, at least.
My
Seems like it kind of
parents didn't let me have
transcends
a console.
generations.
Yeah. My parents didn't let me have a handheld console when I was young. So I just watched my friends play.
Oh, that was the only thing that did that now. Yeah.
Most of my
was
childhood
me.
system was a way for everyone on the team to be equal, no member having a stronger team of Genmon at their disposal than anyone else. Oh, interesting. If you don't mind spending some of your hard-earned cash on the gacha system, it really incentivizes doing well. The more money you have, the better your team is going to be. A true meritocracy. The team's ethos in practice. Just look at all the aces and elites of the team and how good their team is. They've gotta be rolling in it to get the same Genmon each and every time. Heroes and idols to aspire to. Oh, interesting. Before every mission, the boss gives us a chance to play the capsule machine, and it always pops out a Genmon ready and eager to be used. The machine's real simple too. You hit a button, it rolls 2 dice, a big number flashes, and a capture device spits out. The boss gave us a manual for what all the types are and the number they correspond to on the machine. I could never keep the type advantages straight, so I made a couple notes. And these are the options of what could pop out. It's 2 to 12, so I'm guessing you roll a 2d6 for this?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. And these are all the different types of Genmon you could get. Arcane, adamant.
Yeah, they're basically just sort of proprietary types.
Wonderful. Cool. If you guys can read between the lines, you guys kind of know what these are. So.
Yeah, we have a little description down below.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is so much. Wow. There's icons and everything. Oh my gosh. I did not get this far. I jotted down the types of the Kotatsu Region 2. Executive Blizzard said it was a good idea. I even got a commendation. Oh. That's cool. So each one of these has its own strengths, its own weaknesses. Basically, it's strong against 2 other types and weak against 2 other types. And there's like brief descriptions of all of them. That's sick.
Yeah.
And Arcane is none and none. Oh. These logos are really cool.
Thank you.
Oh, this is yours as well. Okay. Oh, sick. Yeah, I
think I did everything except the actual Genmon.
Okay. I'll keep that up for future reference. First of all, this tree one is actually my personal favorite. This is beautiful. What the heck? It's like a little cloud.
Thanks.
Great.
I like the tree too.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, and I like how the types kind of make sense. It's like water, steel, and this is fire.
Yeah.
Fire and poison. Cool. Sick. Chapter 2, bring the boss. Yes, go ahead.
Can I point something out real quick
Of
before
course.
we move on to chapter 2? So, the gacha system is a scam.
Oh, wait. So, I just got chills when you said that. Give me a second. Hold on. So my head, I'm like, aren't some numbers more common than other numbers? With the 2d12 system. Am I on the right track in saying that like 6, 7, 8 are more common than the rest?
7 is, I think, the average, and then it's 6 and 8, and then it goes from there.
Right. So beast, spoil, and growth. Beast, spoil, and growth. So spoil, growth, and beast. So these are just
So
like.
you
So go ahead. Sorry.
you get money from your money from your jobs. You have to spend money to get your Genmon buddies. So you're not really getting paid.
Oh.
The money is
Yeah.
going back.
Oh,
into the
okay. So
system.
that's.
I don't know how big you are on like the mobile games, but the gacha system is a joke on the gacha system. This
Right.
GACHA system.
Yeah. So like you basically
So yeah,
roll
it's
for what
just,
you earn. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just me poking fun at the loot box structure of games.
Yeah, I trust me. I've played a strong handful of those. As somebody who has played plenty of, oh my gosh, Summoner's War, Fire Emblem Heroes, currently playing Marvel Snap. I'm very familiar with the gacha system.
So yeah, I one of the first things that I knew I wanted to do for this game was to the reason that they used to be called Pocket Monsters. I don't know if people know a lot of the history of Pokemon, but the original intent was it was just like a capsule game. The reason they're called capsule monsters was because you would get them from capsule machines, like you see in front of like a Walmart or something nowadays. I don't know how very popular those are. They were big when I was a kid. So I wanted to keep that element of that old school. Like you can find like beta art from the Pokemon Company where it's the Pokemon trainers actually getting capsules with little Pokemon in them, the proto Pokeballs.
Right. I mean,
so I wanted to enshrine that in this game, and then I thought, oh well, why would we why would we have that? Oh well, they have to pay. It's pay to play. So that was like the foundation idea for this game.
Yeah, that's actually super cool because like the more I think about it, the more like the setting kind of sinks in that this is all this is all a scam in the back behind the curtain, so to speak. So it's this sentence right here actually really caught me, and I really enjoy this. It says like, just look at all the aces and elites of the team and how good their team is. They've got to be rolling in it to get the same Genmon each and every time, which basically means they're just spending a whole lot of money to get exactly the Genmon that they're looking for. Exceptionally rare ones would be like Arcane and
the
Blaze.
Other implication is they're not.
Go ahead, sorry.
Right. The implication there though is they're not spending money. It's the aces don't have to pay.
Oh.
It's the rank and file that have to pay. You're the rubes. But the reason that Beast and Spoil are rated is because normal type and poison and dark type are the big types for enemy teams in Pokemon. So that's why they're weighted to those two.
That's
also,
yeah, as
a joke because those are considered the bad ones. Yeah.
That's messed up, and I love it. It's actually so fun. That's so fun.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want that to slip by because I think that's where you start seeing like, oh, you are the bad guys. This is a scam.
And
all
you're
the
not
stuff
even
before that is clearly propaganda.
Yeah, you're not even the best bad guys. You're very explicitly like the bottom of the barrel bad guys. And this
yeah, you're the screw ups.
And these paragraphs like reinforce that idea. I love that. I really do love that. Because this is like,
thank you.
This is because there's other stories and other people who would write something like this that would just say you're bottom of the barrel. Only the top people get to choose their Pokemon. You know, you are always stuck with these. They would say it like blatantly, but reading this very much between the lines, you'd be like, oh, there's a structure here. And only if you ponder over this line 2 or 3 times, then you're like, wait a second. Wait, like the rigged system of the rolls would only really occur to you the second most of your friends roll and you all kind of land and spoil beast and growth, and then you're like, wait a second, this is unlikely. It's unlikely for me to get arcane. And I really love that. That's actually really fun. Cool. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm glad I didn't go out too quickly over it. Then we got to dwell on it.
No problem. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like blending lore with mechanics, because you picked up immediately, oh, you roll a 2d6. Obviously that's explained later, but it's not explained in that page. But you saw it immediately with the numbers, and it made sense. So
yeah, I think
just kind of what we were talking about before practice.
Yeah, there kind of is an art in there is an art in brevity where understanding how to weave both narrative and mechanics into kind of the same flow, so that people are kind of picking up on the system of the game while still being like entertained with the flavor text of it. Some games get too chunky and it's like, do I really have to read 6 paragraphs of exposition before I understand what this game's all about? But when you keep it like light and swift like this, I actually really enjoy it. So definitely testament to this game.
Yeah, thankfully I have a really good team of people behind me who read through my stuff, and we do like a Sunday audit session where myself and like I said, my friend Thomas, we go through what we write, and if it's not good enough, we cut it.
That's valid. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good mindset.
So it's been a good process, and yeah, like I said, our editor John Paul is really good, and he makes sure that it all reads clearly. So,
yeah, it's very much like
we have a good team.
It's very much like a kill your darlings kind of mindset, where it's like you could really, really like a paragraph or an excerpt, but if it doesn't help the person reading it, like how useful is it? Like is it really conducive to the learning experience as much as it is to maybe your pride or your own wantings from the game? But that's a whole discussion.
Yeah, and it's one of the
yeah,
it's probably the thing that Thomas and I say the most. It's like whenever we say, well, I don't know if this is good, the mantra is always, that's what we're here for. Like we're here to discuss if it's good, and if it's not, then it needs to be fixed.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a good
and
mindset.
it's one of those things where it's, you as a creator, you generally want to keep your vision intact, and I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of people going into game design, where it's like, well, you have a clear vision, but your vision may not be fun, but that's hard to grasp. So it helps to have other people kind of take a look at your stuff, I think, and go, well, I see what you're going for, but I don't think it's the execution's not going to be what you think the execution is going to be. And that's probably the second longest discussion session during the audits, is like, how will people read this, and how will they interpret this, and how do we make the language as clear as possible so there's no miscommunication without just making it 6 paragraphs? How do we keep this concise and still convey the message?
That is entirely valid. I remember when I talked to RP about Firelights, his two-sided pamphlet TTRPG. There was such a focus on brevity, and I was really impressed that I was just like, oh, this is like incredibly concise. And then when I got to looking at the game jam and like the Firelights SRD, I'm like, oh, let me see what I can do with this. Let me try my hand on it. So like for the past month, I've been like piecing together things that would be really cool, or things that I think would be make for a fun game. And the biggest hurdle that I've been running into is keeping that vision clear towards one direction, because there's a lot of things I'd like to do, but I'm not sure if putting all together all these things that I like makes for a fun game, so to speak. And there's a incredible usefulness to picking a road and sticking as closest to it as possible, so your game is exactly what it. How do I word this? I feel like you put it so nicely, how you said it, how you have to ask yourself in every paragraph, every section, is this conducive to being a good and fun game? And
yeah, it's hard. It's I have 20 projects, I think, up on our page of just ideas that I'd written down and go, nope, this is no good. But I haven't thrown any of them away because they may actually make dividends at some point. But it's a learning process writing a game, and I think this is probably the core aspect of our writing philosophy, is that everything that we make is just a beta test of what we're going to do next.
Yeah, That's really great. That's a really great mindset.
And we'll talk more about that here when we get to the complication system. But every game is a building block to the next game.
Yeah,
Is how we see it.
That's fantastic. So let's step into chapter 2 and talk about how this game is actually run, how to get it off the ground. It says here, the Blasting Off Again is a narrative game where you, the boss, will detail a scene in which the grunts will interact, framing the episode at large. You are free to introduce NPCs as often or as little as you deem necessary for the story, but never forget that the target was chosen for a reason. New faces shouldn't be more important than the target, and no new scheme or goal should take over as the primary plot without good reason. If you want the scheme or target to change without starting a new episode, award each grunt a commendation for their good work, clear all the complications, and go from there. Grunts should not, unless it absolutely makes sense for the fiction, change their Genmon, gain salary or demerits, or change grunt work at this time. So this is kind of like a leading paragraph in that you should probably stay focused on what you assigned them in the first place, so to speak. Like, don't lose track of the mission. Right. And if you do want to change to a new mission, then just reset things, reset the scene, and start from the beginning, so to speak. Am I following here?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said Saturday morning cartoon earlier, and I think that perfectly encapsulates what the flow of the game is supposed to be. The game is made for, you're not going to be playing 3 years of the same characters in this game.
That's valid.
As we'll see, the game is really designed for pick up and play. Very, very streamlined, and you can play lots of characters with the same character, but each new game should kind of be not self-contained, but you should look at it as an episode of a cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, I think self is contained works really well in this context, and that, like, beyond having the characters established from some previous episode, you can start and finish a 30-minute segment, and, well, maybe metaphorically, if this game takes a little longer than 30 minutes, but you could start a segment and have a satisfying conclusion by the end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think of this game sort of like just a nice meal. Get in, get out, eat, be done, and then not to say that you're not gonna have another meal tomorrow or in a few hours, but it's bite size. It's there for easy consumption.
Yeah, I love that. Let's jump into the planning round. The planning round is where the general setup for the game takes place. Follow these steps in order. Each grunt rolls their single Genmon through the gacha system, rolling 2d6 and taking the result listed on the gacha system table. We've already gone over that this system is more or less rigged to be leaning towards very common types. It's number 2. The boss will either pick a scheme, allow a grunt to select, or the boss and players may roll a 1d6 each, and the person with the highest roll selects the scheme. Schemes are a broad narrative setup the grunts are expected to accomplish during the execution round. So this is kind of like, what scenario would you guys like to play out? And usually the boss determines how that goes down, or you roll off for it. And then here, the grunts will select a target, an important character or element vital to the completion of the scene. The boss will select a few other actors that will be relevant to the scheme found in the boss section of the rules. Oh, okay, that's cool. There's like a section specifically for the boss to read up on things. That's good. Cool. The execution round is meat and potatoes, where the grunts will actively work to complete their scheme and eventually be foiled. Do you find this is a crucial part of the flow of the game, that they have to lose? Is that something that we're going to be like looking through?
Yeah,
towards the end of this game?
you'll see that it's baked into the actual mechanics. That there is a point where either the story ends, like the session ends, or you hit enough complications, and then the players get to decide how their plans are foiled. I don't know if Sam has anything to add. I know he's been quiet a little bit, so want to make sure he gets
I'm
comments in
good.
here too.
I think you have more to say on the mechanics, so I'm just enjoying.
Sure.
Okay, that's cool. I have played something with complications before. I believe it was the game called Raccoon Sky Pirates, where you're flying around in like a trash airship, and you gotta pull off a heist for premium trash before your ship breaks down or somebody catches you or something like that. Very much.
That sounds awesome.
Very much a similar energy.
Yeah.
But let's keep reading here.
What is that game called?
I believe it's. Let me just make. I can look it up, but it's Raccoon Sky Pirates. I believe it's by.
That sounds hilarious.
Is it Chris Sellers? Let me find out. Yes, Chris Sellers.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful game, and the premise is you play as raccoons or other dumpster divers.
Trash animals.
It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I have to save that because I have to check that out because that sounds really funny.
Yeah, so good. Would recommend. I've given it a whirl. Let's see here. So an execution round. This stage of play is generally more loose, but we recommend 1. The boss will set up the scene in which the scheme is taking place. More information can be found in sections below on how to accomplish this. 2. The grunts will make moves, trigger their complications, and roll to complete the various tasks the scheme requires as detailed by the boss. Makes sense. Once the scheme's tipping point, capitalized word means this is important, I'll remember that for later, is hit or the end of the session happens, the boss will declare how the grunts are defeated once and for all, and the grunt with the most complications may trigger their blasting off again, and the execution stage is over. So now I'm learning right here that the grunt has a blasting off again. Is that like just their signature way of... Oh, here, I'll just explain to here. Okay. The blasting off again round. Every episode ends with the grunts exiting the scene in an explosive or otherwise karmically justified way. This exit is temporary as grunts are nothing if not tenacious. This marks the end of an episode. As detailed, if there are still grunts who have not yet chosen a blasting off again from their grunt work and plays continue to run episodes until every grunt has a chance to blast off again. Follow these steps in order. The player, as detailed in the execution round with the most complications, chooses their blasting off again choice from their grunt work. If this would mean the same grunt goes twice, move to the grunt with the second most complications until all grunts have selected their blasting off again. Makes a lot of sense. If this is the end of play, conclude your session. If the play is continuing, award salary, any commendations, return to the planning round and complete and repeat until the end of play. Now, hear me out. Question for you, Debs. Is award salary like sarcastic? Will there ever be a point where your salary is above what you're paying for Genmon? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you're using your salary for anything besides rolling the gacha system?
No, not
Got
really,
it.
no.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, just got that's okay. I was wondering what the vibe was on that. Wonderful. I think it'd be. I know Team Rocket in particular. Whatever money they earned, they just immediately spent on their next robot or their next like vehicle. So the idea of a salary is really funny to me in this context because it's mostly just used to validate you doing bigger and bigger schemes or having grander and grander plots. Kind of, it's a strange like monster of the week kind of situation. But yeah, love that. Okay, so let's find out about schemes and targets. As mentioned above, the scheme and target chosen at the start of play were chosen for a reason. Either because your grunts wanted to explore and interact with the chosen story idea, or simply because that's what the dice decided. Either way, schemes and targets serve as narrative foundations for you to build the episode. Grunts shouldn't go too far outside where the scheme is set to take place, but schemes do not require the episode to take place in a fixed location. Genmon trainers and Genmon are mobile things. Travel and journeying are core parts both in the wider game of A Monster's Tale and blasting off again. You shouldn't feel constrained by location, but if you move locations in an episode, make sure you did so for a reason and detail how this has changed the goals of the grunts and how the target adapts in response to this change of scenery. Right, so this is more directions on like, keep your scheme premise concise. Make sure you're not meandering, as this is meant to be kind of like a snappy sort of scheme. Plan. Yeah. And these are ideas that you could use for schemes. Theft of a Genmon, infiltrating a base, uncovering lost treasure, running a fake gym for profit. These are all just like, this is like the 14-15 minute mark in a 30-minute cartoon where like the music of Team Rocket kind of creeps in and we're introduced to whatever disguise they're wearing or whatever robot they've pulled out. And it's kind of like, okay, now that we've introduced whatever Ash and company are doing, it's time to figure out how Team Rocket plans to steal whatever Pokemon has shown up. So the energy here is very familiar. Any example targets?
Yeah, I tried to keep the example. Then these are all just examples. They're not prescriptive. They're descriptive.
Of course.
So if people have other ideas of like, you don't see the movie show on there. That was one that the playtesters came up with. Thomas ran blasting off again through Chat GPT.
Oh, really?
Or whatever that thing is called, and came out with Jesse James and Meowth running a restaurant to steal people's food. They're not making food. They're stealing people's money to get food. And they were using like a super hot pepper sauce to capture Pikachu.
That seems
what
super
roundabout. That would be a
yeah.
completely viable game. Like you could totally run that in blasting off again.
Yeah, that seems like a ridiculous plan and would probably fit right in, which is really good.
Yeah.
I feel like part of my favorite part of the Pokemon episodes were when they would look at a Pokemon and be like, "How would the boss enjoy this?" What's that? What sort of weird way is this perfect as a gift for the boss? So this leads perfectly into our target section, where these are all the people you could target for your scheme, all the potential victims. I'm seeing here your own boss. Is this sounds like a campaign ender, to be honest. This seems
no
like
one's picked that one, so I don't know how that one would go, but I thought it would be just funny to put on the list.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally valid. Yeah, I like this. I like this. And let's keep going. So episodes. Right, so this is kind of like episodes is analogous to a session, so to speak. So like a sit down. You would imagine episode is like a full sit down. Cool. And then a scene is like.
And I mean, the language is already there for the Saturday cartoon. So yeah, that's just the session is the episode. Yeah.
Cool. Most important thing the boss needs to do is to set the length of an episode, largely based on the number of complications the grunts trigger. This is called the tipping point. In general, the number of complications needed to trigger the blasting off again should be 2 per every grunt on the team. Oh, this is actually really interesting. So like, depending on how many players you have, the list of complications can be longer. I guess that does make sense. So everybody gets the opportunity to experience complications at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on how their roles go, yeah.
Yes. No episode should be shorter than 1 complication per grunt and no longer than 20 complications? How could you possibly continue at 20 complications?
Yeah, that was just a high end number that I like.
Badly.
Yeah, if you hit that many complications, the scope of the game is probably beyond what the rules are calling for.
Totally valid. It is possible that a tipping point. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, if you've hit 20 complications, you should just start another episode.
That's valid. That's totally fair. Because I feel like I'm just imagining someone trudging through 20 things going wrong and being like, there's probably a point where you should probably just go to sleep and try again tomorrow. And this is probably the point.
Just cut your losses and try again next time. Yeah.
It is possible that a tipping point may not be hit during a session. If this occurs, end session is normal and select the grunt with the most complications and let them pick their blasting off again as usual. If there's a tie, those grunts with the same number can decide who gets to pick. Wonderful. So you kind of get to leave the game on your own note. This makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So moves. I recognize the word moves from Powered by the Apocalypse. That's kind of my loose understanding of what moves are whenever...
This game has a lot of the skeleton of a Powered by the Apocalypse game. I would call this game at least tangential to Powered by the Apocalypse. You roll same sort of hit full hit and miss sort of thing, based on rolls and stuff like that is kind of enshrined in this as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Best rule of thumb is to call for a roll and the possibility of failure. Right. This is This makes sense. Like if they're not gonna fail, no point in having them roll. I see this.
Right, and that to me is the core of Powered by the Apocalypse. Like, if there's no chance of something interesting happening, then you don't need to roll.
Right.
Like walking up the stairs doesn't require a roll.
Yeah, it's basically rolling is very specifically when you want to add some sense of variance that is out of your control.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The same bonuses and malices, plus and minuses. Let us understand. They may apply either a malice or a bonus to an action. As per the rules, a malice is a -1, bonus is a +1. Important to keep in mind, only one such modifier can affect a roll single roll at any time. Great. Should apply a bonus beyond those it always applies. Next, right? When you feel a grunt has a reasonable chance of success, Genmon type advantage. Oh, so the advantage disadvantage of your Genmon type, does that translate to a +1 or -1?
That's correct.
Got it. Okay. I'm gonna confuse with the D&D
That's where
version of this
actually
word.
having the typings come in matters.
Right. Would this only be in situations where your Genmon is like actively involved, or is it like?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
Only when you're actually using your Genmon. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Complications should not in general apply a bonus or malice in their own rights. Complications are ways to guide the episode and prompt scenes with insects. They're guide rails of the fiction more than... Okay, so complications, as I'm understanding it, are like narrative beats. So
That's correct.
Okay. Great. Cool. Okay, great. This game is pretty darn familiar to like... and a lot of these concepts, I'm like, okay, I'm getting it. Which is good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Your grunts are not the elite members of the villain team, even if they have all the qualifications to be. I like how you very strongly put me in my place every now and then, just to remind me where I stand. Lines like these are like just a reminder. You're not really the main character. You're just kind of the background character.
You're not the hero of the story. Yeah.
You can be the protagonist and not be the hero, I guess would be the word here. But
that's right.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Their own ego, uncertainty, and many bubbling actions undermine them at every step, and that's what complications are for. Cool. Commendations are awarded by the boss during execution phase. For players, they feel have played to the grunt work strength when a grunt uses one of their knacks as a reward for hit success. Commendations, so this is what I've been looking for. Commendations grant a player the ability to re-roll any one of their dice and take the higher roll of the two. Okay,
so
cool.
It's just, commendations and demerits are just advantage and disadvantage from 5th ed.
Got it.
I like that system, and I've used it in some Powered by the Apocalypse stuff. So yeah, I thought that it would just work well here. So, since you're only rolling a 1d6 when rolling, you can't have as big a numerical bonus or malice to your rolls.
Okay.
So demerits, so advantage disadvantage is basically a non-numerical way to give a reward or a negative. Is on a 1d6 a -1. You know, if you get a plus or -1 or plus or -2, it's either an auto hit or an auto fail on a 3 to 4 as the center guide.
Right.
So
right.
you can't have a bonus higher than -1 or negative lower than -1, or higher than -1. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So in this system, kind of contrary to Powered by the Apocalypse, these all have the same odds. Like miss hit and success are equivalent in terms of how often they appear, which is cool. Yeah, cool. And salary gives me like luck point energy, I guess. Where
you can spend it on a couple different things. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So salary can be used to kind of affect the story that you want to, or affect the kind of Genmon you want. Or I see. This is cool. And very straightforward. It's not like sometimes there's systems where like they introduce the concept of gold and then have 5 pages on what that gold can be used for. And for that, sometimes my eyes just kind of glaze over and I'm like, okay, I'll read this some other time when I have time for it.
When I really need to buy something.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I see that there's a shopping episode in our near future. But this is very straightforward and I like that. And then here, basically every move, which I'm assuming you get from your playbook, so to speak, they call upon
So,
one.
move in this context is sort of like World of Dungeon, where it's like, oh well, I want to bust down the door. That's a move. Each playbook does have its own like little special move, but for the most part, moves are just when you take an action in this game.
Okay, cool. But, yeah, like what we talked about before, when you want to move with the risk of failure, or you try
Which is
attempt
why I
something
call it.
that has a risk.
Yeah,
of
which is
failure.
why I call it a move. Because you're making a movement to do something. Yeah, which is why I kept that term.
Got it. Okay. Let's see here. So if you roll on a d6 a 1 or 2, it's considered a miss, provoking a complication from the Grunt's list, which counts against the tipping point. The Grunt also earns a demerit. Oh snap! You just straight up get a demerit from this. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is a big deal.
Therefore, considered a hit in which it moves a fiction through a complication. This complication does not count towards the tipping point. So this is just a complication that doesn't count towards the end of the game. Interesting.
Right. It's just there to move the fiction.
Got it. 5 to 6 considered a success, either granting a commendation for the Grunt or an increase in salary at the end of the episode. Nice. And then the following always apply commendations or demerits. A Grunt earned a commendation to all actions that fit their knack as listed on their Grunt work. Bosses make the ultimate call on what fits a knack or not. When rolling a knack, the Grunt must use a commendation on that moment, rolling 2d6 and taking the higher of the 2 options. And these are kind of the specialties of these. Are these
Right.
Are these
It's what
knacks?
you're good at.
Oh.
Yeah, and I have all of them listed for like in shorthand without having to look at the character the playbooks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. That really is helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, this is good. I'm not used, and I'm not knocking the games that I have browsed through, but I'm not used to everything just kind of being explained concisely in a paragraph and then moving on. It's refreshing. I'll let you know it's refreshing, because sometimes
Thank
it'll be
you.
like, now let's talk about salaries. This is salaries. There's also a section about salaries 3 pages away from here, and you're gonna read about salaries again, but not here. Probably later. You know, like that sort of thing is like, okay, I get it. I know there's a lot you want to say about this, but it would be cool if this was all on the same page. If I could just process it all at once and just absorb it there. So again, thank you for the
Yeah,
the
welcome.
layout.
This really comes back to the I'm an engineer. That's how I really see myself. I don't see myself as an artist. I don't see myself as a designer. I see myself as a game engineer, and I think it's 26 pages in total.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone asked in the chat, is this 16 pages in total? The playbooks are fairly large, but that's just because we put a lot of like fluff into them, which is fun, we think. But yeah, the rule should be concise. You shouldn't have to have a book that's 100 pages of rules documents. I don't think so.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this PDF. The page 16 is lines and veils, which is kind of something you learn from your first TTRPG, and you can just kind of transfer that over and over again, which is kind of just a universal thing. So in theory, not counting the playbooks, which are all each in their individual thing, and you don't necessarily have to read every single one of these, the game is 15 pages long. And that's
much.
great. That's great, because I don't know. I was overwhelmed when I opened up Pathfinder 2e for the first time, and there were 642 pages. And there was,
Yeah, I saw you tweeting about that.
and I'm
And I had
just
a good
like,
chuckle.
there's no world where I read this through in one sitting, or 2 sittings, or 10 sittings. Like, I don't know how much of this I have to read to be able to play the game. And that's the most intimidating thing. That's one of the biggest barriers to entry for me as a person. I'm like, if I need more than 1 day to understand how to run the game, then that's discouraging, because it'll be hard for me to convince other people to learn this game if I, after playing 1,000 games of TTRPGs, feel that this is too much, you know? So when
I
I
agree with you.
when I see a game that's like, 25, 30 pages long, but the game can be learned in the first dozen, and the rest is like optional material or like player focused options, that's cool. That's great. I really, really appreciate that. And like, I and you would know this too. I love Masks. I really enjoy that game. But the first like 20 pages of that book is lore. And I have to page like 50 pages in to finally get to the meat and potatoes of like, what is a move and what moves do I have? And I understand how that can be difficult for people reading it, because lore at the end of the day for a game like Masks and for many TTRPGs is good for leading you in the direction of what the game is, but not mandatory. The story is made at the table, so to speak, and the framework is what needs to be put in the front and center. Yeah.
So we obviously wrote a ton of Mask stuff, and the Worst Generation does lead off with a bunch of lore, but it's a lore book, So it's the setting information for the city that we made, and it is 400 pages, give or take. I think it's a couple of pages more than that. But I mean it's mostly NPCs. The lore of the actual city is not very big. Chapter 3 I think is the largest, and we wrote 2 moves for every existent playbook, and then we have a ton of content of our own moves and stuff like that. So when we came and we were kind of constrained by working with someone else's product. So when we sat down to write a Monster's Tale, which is almost done, I think I have 1 more chapter to write, just which is just like the setting information, the pre-packaged, like this is the region that you can use if you don't want to come up with your own, which obviously there are rules to come up with your own in the book. But it's the first chapter is just like, what is Powered by the Apocalypse? What is this game that you bought? And then the immediate next chapter is, okay, here are the basic moves and here are the base mechanics. And then it leads right into player creation. Because I think that to me is the proper method. And then after all of that, then it's the lore stuff. That to me is the proper way to design a book. Yeah. And I'm not saying that anyone's wrong in not designing their books like that, but that's kind of the 5 points style. You get a little bit of context for what the game is, then you get to the rules, and then all the world building and all the writing is at the back half. Yeah. And we hope you read that too. But if you want to make up your own stories and you want to make up your own games at the table, that's the fun of tabletop RPGs, and you should do that.
Absolutely.
So,
like what this reminds me of is the tutorial of a video game, where they kind of lead you down a set path and they're like, this is how you play the game. These are the rules. And then once you're done with that, it's like, hey, did you enjoy that? Did you like what you read? Okay, here's the rest of the game. And then that's when you're given like the whole expanse of like character options and lore and world and all that. And like, but it's important to get those core foundations in front and center, so you can convince somebody like, hey, this game is actually fun to play. Like this is not just a novel. So, and it's not to say that like, books with heavy mechanics are not fun, because I played D&D 5e for 5 years, and that's all I played for 5 years, and I very much enjoyed it. Like that, I loved learning more and more rules and figuring out how to play with those and be creative within those bounds. I very much enjoyed that, but that can be overwhelming. That can be very overwhelming, and if you don't want to commit to a game for years, so to speak, in the same way one would commit to D&D, then there's trade-offs. Like whenever I see a game with a very heavy system, like a very heavy like magic system or combat system, I see it, I look at it, and I'm like, okay, how many hours am I realistically going to play this game? Is it going to be one day? Then I won't read it. If it's going to be 1 month, okay, I'll start to learn. If it's going to be 1 year, okay, now I can finally commit to like learning the very ins and outs of this game and really get the payoff, you know. But I recently read, and this is a bit tangential. I recently read like Tangled Blessings, which is a very prompt story heavy, prompt based game. There are no dice, there are no coins, there are no like. The most random thing you do is you pull from a tarot deck and look at the card, right?
Yeah.
So the rules mechanically were 1 page, which was how to make your character, and then pull a card to get your prompt, and just do that over and over again, and that's it. That was the whole game, and that made it really easy to introduce to other people. That made it really easy to pitch to my friends and be like, hey, this isn't really a game you have to learn, because you can learn. I could teach this to you in 30 seconds. Here's the game. Done. Want to play? You know, like that. The barrier to entry into TTRPGs is such a big deal. It's such a big deal, especially when you're swimming in the sea of all the itch.io games that I have been dwelling in and really enjoying. If I don't get the game, if I don't understand what the game is from like a passing glance and get the energy right away, then it's a hard sell. And that's just where I stand on it. So when I'm reading your game and I'm reading through this and everything is so neat and you're like properly using like bold and bullet points and paragraphs, you don't know how much I appreciate it. I don't know if I'm saying, I don't know if I'm conveying it, that this is a very well laid out game and a very well thought out, not only like mechanically, but also narratively. So.
Well, thank you.
Credits to you.
Thank you.
I should add that Rex Arcana, the game that we're probably putting out next, is 2 pages.
Wonderful. Thank you. Music to my ears. Music to my ears.
You get a character sheet and you get how to play the game, and then that's it.
Go.
Beautiful. Okay, before we wrap up the stream, because we are hitting the 1.5 hour mark, I do want to look at some of these, so to speak, playbooks and just kind of take a look at what this could mean if you pick this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
So we could look at which ones would you recommend? Would do you think we would enjoy reading?
The mouth and the heart.
Mouth and heart.
I think are the two good ones.
Okay.
The mouth is your Meowth. So there's kind of a double pun there. I don't know why I decided to name them all off of body parts, but I really wanted to convey like you're part of a heist crew, and there's always like the bruiser,
Right.
the getaway. So I think that's kind of where I probably where I came up with them. I love the little emblems that Sam did for all of them.
Oh, this is more of Sam's work. I'm seeing it. Oh, this one's adorable. Oh my gosh, look at this guy. Look at this guy in the
Yeah,
corner.
Sam did everything except for the 4 Genmon at the bottom, which we should
Yeah,
should
let's
also
take a look
even
at that
though
real
it's
quick.
not.
So this is the only thing that Sam didn't do, as I'm understanding. But they are adorable. That's so great. So these are example Genmon if you would like an example, and you don't want to pull from the obvious Nintendo work. I'm loving it. These are adorable. And this is dual type, so this is very rare. Let's see here. Storm, spoil, slime. Oh, this one's cute. Is the slime? Is the slime
It's
the
like
Genmon?
shy. It's like a portmanteau of like shy and slime. Yeah.
Oh, are these 2 different Genmon, or are they the same Genmon?
It's the little fantasy slime is inside a stuffed animal.
Oh,
And then the base game for
great.
Monster's Tale, you'll actually be able to like buy different stuffed animals, and it'll change the typing that they get.
Oh wait, this
So
is
it'll
cool.
take it from a monotype, spoil type to whatever typing that stuffed animal has. So it could be like a fire Genmon, so they would get spoil blaze.
I love that. That's really good.
Thank
Cool. Cool. And I like how most of these are beast and spoil, as if you know that the players are going to end up with beast and spoil.
Yeah, that was the idea. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And then the next
Oh, yeah,
the next
go ahead.
Genmon that we come out with will be the starters for A Monster's Tale.
Oh,
which we've already.
fantastic.
Yeah, we already have the decks written. Like I said, there's really only one chapter left, and that's like here's Route 1, here's Route 2, and all of that. So it's pretty close to being content complete.
Yeah, I dig that. Let's take a look at Mouth, and then maybe we could wrap up for this stream, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
for having us, and thanks everyone in the chat for watching. We've been happy to sit here and tell you about our stuff.
Yeah, you've been wonderful. And very insightful. I'm definitely going to ask you about those discords later, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. So this is an example sort of character you can be. You are the Mouth. Your knacks are talking to Genmon and trickery. This should sound familiar to people. You're always in good with words, which is surprising because you're a Genmon. Perhaps your lab accident gone wrong. Perhaps you taught yourself human speech. Perhaps you were just born this way. Regardless, you can talk. The problem is that you don't know when to shut up. Your mouth has landed you in more trouble than you can count on flippers, fins, fingers, or toe beans, and you've made a lot of people in villain team angry. No one sees you as the marvel you are. They just see you as a loudmouth, and that's relegated you to your current team of misfits. Your talent is going native. You're a Genmon, and thus, unlike your compatriots, cannot use other Genmon to battle. You can battle yourself, however. You begin play with the type associated with your Genmon species. When you play the gotcha system, you may instead swap out a type with whatever you rolled. Sick. It causes complications when people believe your eyes, but they lead you somewhere dangerous. You trick the wrong person. A Genmon you've convinced in the scene catches onto your tricks. People mistake you for a non-talking Genmon, and you can't break the ruse. Someone sees you for what you're worth. A talking Genmon will fetch a fortune. Your teammates don't value your input, although you've been giving good advice. You meet another talking Genmon and they don't like you. Oh, that's an interesting one. Blasting off again. All your lies and misdirections come back on you. Your target and their allies chase you from the scene. Your lies and tricks land you in a situation you were totally unprepared for. You make your escape at the expense of your team, who give chase. You may be a baddie, but you've got a heart of gold. You've made a promise to someone in the episode and you plan to keep it, even though it means your schemes is going to go up in flames. How does your promise tank the mission? There's more than a couple episodes just like this, where Meowth is like, listen, you gotta go. This is not good for you. I made a mistake. Like, I'll distract him. I love that. I think this is a very smooth way in introducing what kind of character someone could be playing as. I think the reference to the trials and tribulations that Meowth went through are more than clear, and I enjoy this. I think these complications make a lot of sense, and it'd be cool if like the GM just kind of like has this to the side and it's like, oh, you just did this complication, and that sounds simple enough for me. So
yeah, so like when you roll it, like the example from the movie theater, like they were trying to like muscle their way to kidnap the starlet that we were talking about, and the Genmon that they had rolled a miss, so they chose when people mistake you for a non-talking Genmon. So the little girl that we mentioned in the crowd was like, it's a whatever the Pokemon they were playing. I think it was a Purloin from the actual Pokemon games. We were still using actual Pokemon. It was just easier to do. And just that kid became obsessed with capturing that Purloin and taking it. Just like the snotty little, spoiled brat that she was.
sure.
And it, throughout the entire rest of the episode, the session, that the kid would pop up at inopportune moments and be like, "Kitty, you're mine," and just so like everything else, these complications are just they're descriptive. They're not prescriptive. You can come up with your own. They're just like I said in the GM section. They're guide rails. They're there to tell you the general theme of the grunt work or playbook or whatever you want to call it. And Thomas was the one who came up with the complications. They came from a game called cartel. They have moves in there called drug moves that sort of work like this, where they're more of a prompt for a negative instead of just a hard mechanical negative. And they've been a real sea change for our company, which is the exact word that I think we used in the audit, or term that we used in the audit. So we've been adding them to all sorts of stuff. Because one of my biggest complaints with a lot of the Powered by the Apocalypse games is everything's a -1 or a +1.
Right.
And that's a boring, I think, way to reward a player, especially in a game where it's fiction first and narrative forward. So I think the complication, I call them complication tables. I don't know if there's an official term, but that's kind of what we've been calling them in house. I think they're one of the best things that we've come up with as a company. They really inform play.
Yeah.
So
I think complications are really useful for players who don't quite understand how to move a scene forward, or are inexperienced in explaining their own failure. Just by picking one of these complications, they're like, okay, well, this is how it goes wrong. So what did I try to do? And that's so much easier to picture than perhaps doing it in reverse and being like, okay, how did I mess up? What fits for somebody who has the talent of like mouth, and having these already written down is, I don't know, really great. Because I can't emphasize this enough. A lot of people stepping into TTRPGs, especially outside of the big few, aren't necessarily too experienced, right? They don't really know what to expect from games, or they don't really know how to tell a long-winded story if they don't have tabletop game experience in the first place. This stuff doesn't necessarily come naturally to people, and when you can guide someone through that, I'll basically always keep the new player in mind when you're writing these things, and I feel like the complications is exactly that. Perfect for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something else that Thomas and I have talked about, and other people who kind of do our playtesting, and that's probably the biggest complaint that I see. I post a lot on the Powered by the Apocalypse Reddit, and probably the number one post I see on Reddit for PBTA games is, how do I tell the story?
Right.
It's almost like a mantra. I just came from D&D, and this system I don't really get because it's completely different. How do I tell a fiction first, narrative forward story?
Right.
And I agree. I think that the complications are a good, not a crutch necessarily, but a good off ramp to beginning that lesson of you're now in a game where there isn't a lot of mechanical rigging. The rigging is kind of left up to you. Here are some suggestions, here are some advice. And there's not a lot for the positive sides, and there might need to be. But definitely in a game like Powered by the Apocalypse, I mean, you've played plenty of Mass, so you're not, even on a full hit, you don't always get what you want. Right. There's always something that complicates the scene. There's always something that moves the drama forward, because it's a game about drama. So there's the complications, I feel, and we've even added a couple complications. I made a playbook the other day where I just added a complication table to them, and it worked really well. So they really fit. We've mentioned RP on here. He took a look at these, and he said it was brilliant, which was maybe like one of my favorite days of all time, hearing that from another content creator who I really respect, like RP.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
we're really happy.
I feel like every time I read a new game, there's the one thing I can take away is like, wow, that is actually so great, and I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket in case I need to pull out a good idea, because a lot of these, it's so interesting to see how certain writers approach certain situations, and as you said, like certain game engineers, how they see the system and how it accommodates different audiences and different players, so to speak. But yeah,
absolutely.
This was wonderful, and I feel like we really got into the weeds of like what makes a good game, what leads this game in particular, and what sort of design philosophies it sticks to, and how closely it sticks to it. This was a really interesting discussion. And usually we just talk about like how does the game play. but seeing your philosophy in terms of what kind of game you want to design and what kind of things you've learned from with like the advice of other people or talking it through with other designers is so interesting. So thank you so much. And
Yeah,
also,
thanks for having us.
yeah, and also thank you, Sam, for having us, like, for giving us something beautiful to look at the entire time we were on stream.
No problem. Sorry,
as
I know I was a little quiet, but it's been really fun.
Yeah, as I continue to be impressed by this, how this game looks and just the general aesthetic of it is super. What's the word when it all perfectly matches each other? It's like a cohesive, maybe. Cohesive.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I could do my part because, well, you guys have all been talking about, the brilliance Mikhail brought, so try to.
Oh well. I don't know about brilliant,
Yes, you must
but-
take the compliment.
I'll be real with you, and this game can be amazing, but if it doesn't have this splash right on the front, I don't know if it's gonna pull everybody. So
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, the cover art is so important. Gotta say,
Yeah,
but
it was fun. I had my themes of can we have the grunts and a Genmon like exploding, and can there also be this kind of like Russian propaganda look? And I was like, okay, let me see what I can do.
I think you nailed it.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for coming on the stream. Thank you for teaching us about this game. If you're looking for it, Blasting Off Again can be found as I tab over and click it. Show it to me at 5 Point Games at itch.io. You can find this game as well as a Monster's Tale, as well as a number of supplements and games, supplements to masks, as well as a number of games from game jams. You can follow their work here and find their Twitter on this page. Please do. Thank you guys so much for coming through. I've never had 2 guests before, but that worked out splendidly. So thank you so much
Thanks for having us
being here.
both.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. We're gonna wrap the stream here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye. And the stream's done.